We've got 3 comics that we're going to look at in this video. If you want your comic featured, then join the Discord. The link to that is in my YouTube channel page. Let's just get straight into the first one. All right, so first up, we've got SideBurn and their comic Duckling Star. If you've watched this series on my channel before, you might recognize this comic. That's because that's the second time it's been featured on my channel. So welcome back. Now, from the form, you listed a whole bunch of areas that you want to improve. Drawing, art style, planning, layout, pacing, motivation, consistency, perfection. That's a lot. And here's the first issue before we even get into the comic. When you try to fix everything all at the same time, you fix nothing consistently. That mindset of trying to optimize absolutely everything all at the same time is showing up in the pages of your comic as well. So let me switch over to Clip Studio Paint and I shall show you what I mean. So here we go. Now, when you look at these pages zoomed out, they look fantastic. They look dynamic and energetic. The angles are really strong. The poses are really expressive. The action has impact. And the improvement since the last feature on this channel is really, really obvious. It's really impressive how quickly you've improved. And I'd go so far as to say that visually, this isn't that far from a lot of professional or at least semi-professional manga, I would say, in my opinion. So the issue that I'm going to focus on has nothing to do with your drawing ability. You are better than you think you are. And if you carry on, then you're just going to continue to improve that. The thing that I'm going to focus on is visual discipline, I suppose, because when we strip away the cool angles and the dynamic framing, the storytelling becomes really hard to follow. So we've got these 6 pages here, and I counted 41 panels roughly. In that time, we are only clearly reminded of the character's spatial relationship once. And that panel is partially obscured by a word balloon. And the panel in question is this one. That is the only panel that I could see out of these 6 pages where we are reminded that she is here, and I believe they're on a volleyball court. And you've got 2 characters there, right? So this character is this character. Every other panel, like literally every other one, is either a close-up shot or a reaction shot. And the camera is tight in on the action as well. So why is this a problem? It's a problem because it creates confusion. So when we think about what the action is here, it's a volleyball game, right? Quite an intense volleyball game, but it's a volleyball game. And we don't know where the volleyballs are coming from most of the time. We don't know how far away the characters are from each other, like at all throughout the entire thing. We don't know how they're moving through the space, like through the literal space of the comic panels or the court that they're on. So when we're watching action, we need to be reminded of where the characters are in relationship to each other, because when we're talking about action, we're talking about movement. So our characters are moving around. So we need to know where they are. And because the camera on these 6 pages are really close up to the action all the time, we are completely disoriented and the story and the action become too abstract. And that's what I feel is happening here on these pages here. Like visually, if you take it out of context, it looks fantastic. But when you're trying to follow it as a story, it's really difficult to follow. So we need to fix your process, not your drawing fundamentals. And I would suggest that your brain is moving too fast when you're making this. And I think that's probably overwhelming you to the point where you just can't see the wood through the trees. And I think that you need to slow down your thought process a little bit and answer this question for the next few layouts that you do for your page. And that question is, does the audience know where they are? Now, you don't have to do this for literally every single panel. That's totally fine. But I'd say 1 panel a page, or maybe 1 panel per spread, a spread being 2 pages, is probably recommended, especially if it's a fast action page where everyone's moving around a lot, just to reorient the reader and the audience so that they can know that although, yes, you might be in the same location, this character has moved from this part of the area to this part of the area. This character has moved from this part of the area to this part of the area, just so that we can follow it a lot more. So I'm sure it's one of the Taken films was really bad at this, where like Liam Neeson was just jumping over a fence. This is all from memory, so I apologize if I've got this wrong. But there are like 12 different camera cuts and they're all really close up, and he's just jumping over a fence to make it more dynamic. And it doesn't make it more dynamic. It just makes it more visually noisy and confusing and bleh. And I feel that you've fallen into a similar trap with this, or these pages here. So what that means essentially is zoom out a little bit more. And I'm going to zoom in on this page in particular as an example. So this middle page here. So let's just run through what is happening on this page. Okay. Now, this is my interpretation. I might have got some of this wrong. If that's the case, I apologize. So panel number 1, she deflects the volleyballs, it looks like. Panel number 2, it looks like she's looking down. Panel number 3, I assume that's a phone. It looks like it goes off. Panel number 4, something happens here, but I'm not sure. I don't know if she's reacting to the phone. I'm not sure. Or unless that, I've literally only just noticed this. That, is that? In which case you need to make that way more obvious. Oh, is it a battery? It's a battery symbol, isn't it? That's a battery symbol. Okay. I'm pretty sure that's a battery symbol. And is it that her boots have run out of battery? I don't know. I can't remember. I'm sure. Okay. Right. Let's stop the critique for a second. Okay. I'm sure that is a battery symbol. I'm not going to get that out of my head now. And to be fair, I haven't read, because this is quite a big comic. I haven't read the pages leading up to this. So maybe I'm missing some context here. And having read the rest of the comic, maybe this would be a little bit more obvious. But even if that is the case, I still feel that this is relevant. So, deflecting the volleyballs. Battery, we're going to assume that's a battery symbol. Low on battery. That battery symbol is on her leg. Because it was run out of battery, she falls down. I assume she's falling down from the ground. I assume that she's in the air here, although there's nothing to indicate she's in the air, even from the previous page. So she falls over from a height, maybe, from there. And then I think she's on the ground here. And then you've got a reaction shot here, another reaction shot here, and then a reaction shot of her. And I assume it's her as well. There's nothing necessarily visual to suggest that it's her. Again, I'm kind of guessing here. Hopefully you can see that it's not 100% clear. And look, do you know what? If this was a single page that was like this, I think it would be fine. But a lot of the pages are like this, where you can sort of see what's happening, but it's hard to link one panel to the next. It's hard to see the story progress in a clear way, especially since all of this is on one page. Like, there's a huge amount of action on one page. And also make this link a lot more obvious, because I've literally only just noticed that. And even then I might have got that wrong as well. But I just saw that and and have assumed that they're the same. But I honestly didn't connect those two dots before. So when you're doing your next series of thumbnails, this is the main thing that I would recommend is, first of all, establish the space. So like the volleyball scene, establish where we are. Deliver some of the action. So let's just use this page again as our example. So perhaps like panel 1, let's just say panel 1 is there. We've established the action, and then panel 2 is her deflecting the volleyballs, and then we've got that's the battery and battery on the leg scene, and then we zoom out again by the time we get to this panel here. That might mean fewer panels per page, but I think that's worth it. That's a worthwhile trade, because again, you need to bring your audience along with you. There's no point just like throwing them a load of scenes and throwing them a load of panels if they're not going to follow it and not going to understand what's going on. Because like I say, the drawings and the quality I think are there. It's just about making the stories a little bit clearer in terms of the visuals and the space and what's going on. But fantastic. And it's fantastic to see you progress so much and to see you grow so much as well in the relatively short amount of time. Is really, really encouraging. So absolutely keep going. Just go, and this goes for everybody. Going fast isn't always the best option. In fact, it often rarely is the best option. And sometimes you do have to sort of slow down and just reconsider some things and then go again, and then just slow down and then go again. So that's how I recommend you think about your comic story moving forwards. All right, next up we have Dominick Battle, who has been making comics for less than a year and is making a comic that's going to be around 700 to 900 pages long. Which, yeah, that's too long. But also, you are fast, like really, really fast. If you're numbering on Webtoon, here is a chapter. So chapter 1 is Breaker Breaker, and chapter 2 is Texas Who. And it takes you around 3 months or so to complete a chapter, or 35 to 45 pages. So that rate, you could get this done in between 4 to 7 pages, roughly speaking. Which for a 700 to 900 page comic, that's not bad actually, like at all. But anyway, I want to talk about dialogue specifically with you because you want me to talk about dialogue. And also because I feel that dialogue is probably the biggest thing that you need to work on. So the problem that I've got with the dialogue is that it's all style with little substance. And I'm not talking about the actual words of dialogue. I'm not talking about the script or the writing. Now, could the dialogue be improved? Yeah, of course, but that's true of every comic ever. Instead of going through the dialogue line by line, which I don't think would help, and it will take me a lot longer than I have time available for, I want to talk about the word balloons. Because you do something that's quite interesting, and arguably it's a bit of a cheat code, but I think you just about get away with it. So you color code every word balloon based on who is talking. So we have Hal, who is this character here, the mobile medic robot speech in yellow, and Who is the guy in blue. Their word balloon, their speech bubbles are in blue. You also have Kettle, who is this hydraulic robot, and his word balloon colors match him as well. And for the animation style that you've got here, I think you just about get away with it. In fact, if you told me that this comic was like a version of a Saturday morning cartoon, I would 100% believe you. So huge props for that aesthetic, and you very clearly absolutely have a background in animation because it shows a lot, because some of the panels have a huge amount of movement in them. Like look at all of this here. It's very, very kinetic. Very, very kinetic. Very, very good. Like look at that. Wow. That's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stuff. So if you're not in animation, then start, but I think you probably are. Now, let's look at this page in a bit more detail. Now. Specifically, when it comes to the word balloons, it's the word balloon tails that are really screwing you over here, I think. Now, we can actually divide this page in half. When we look at the word balloons on the right, I think you get away with those. Even if they were all white, I think you'd probably get away with those, because we can infer that these word balloons belong to these two characters, and that we're going from here to here. And now they're in the scrapyard and they're out of shot. We've got a bit of a clue with the squirrel who's looking in their direction. So you can argue that you get away with the conversation continuing, starting here and continuing in the scrapyard within the same panel. You are at risk of confusing people, but I think you will by and large probably get away with it. You will by and large get away with it. Now, when it comes to this bit of dialogue, the main thing that you could do, and it's a really, really quick, easy fix, is take this word balloon tail and connect it to this word balloon, take this word balloon tail, connect it to this word balloon. And that's it. Like if you were to do that, then it would just help connect the dots a lot easier, because bear in mind that people are reading these things relatively quickly. So it needs to be really clear and obvious who is talking and in what order they're talking. So by just extending the word balloon tails and just connected them. So it's literally like the word balloon 1 and you're connecting it to word balloon 2. It's literally like that. That will solve pretty much everything that that is, in my view, not working with this page when it comes to word balloons. And if you're sat there listening to me say that you should extend the word balloon tails like this, and you're thinking, oh yeah, but it's my style to have the little tails like that every time, then that's style over substance. Like at the end of the day, you're choosing an aesthetic that is making the comic more difficult to read just because of style. And I don't think that's a good idea. Now, let's fast forward to the latest pages, because I'll always try and look at the latest pages because that's, the better representation of where you are. So let's look at this panel here. Now we've got this new character whose primary color is green. So first of all, his shoulder is talking. for some reason. So that's the first thing I noticed. The second thing I noticed is Buck Kid. So let me write that down. Buck Kid, who is this little character here. His speech bubble is here, and yet he is here. So it's way too far away from the character. That's the second thing that was instantly noticeable. But they're relatively easy fixes. Also, his groin seems to be talking. So the easy fix is to move that there, make sure that is reaching him. I mean, maybe even putting that there, so it's more obvious that Bucket is talking. And then again, that one, I'd rather have a longer word balloon tail that's pointing towards the mouth. So relatively easy. But the biggest culprit, and perhaps the entire comic that I saw, was these panels here. Now, I don't quite know how this happened, so hopefully you can shed some light on this. But this section of panels is completely broken. And again, this is why I say I'm so thankful that you gave me this comic, because the artwork is fantastic. The characters are really, they come to life. They're full of life. They're really appealing. The colors are great. Everything aesthetically about this comic is wonderful. But the word balloons are diabolical, and they are the things that are breaking this comic. And all of the good stuff that you're doing is being hurt by the word balloons alone. So let's just go through this, right? So we've got this word balloon here, which, because of the colors, I know for sure it's supposed to be this character talking, but the word balloon tail's pointing there. And I genuinely don't understand how that happened. And the only thing that makes me think it happened that way is that you drew the word balloons in first and then did the drawings. Or maybe the original composition had this character over here, but you didn't actually fix the word balloons after. Otherwise, I don't know how that happened, because obviously we've got the second word balloon, which is pointing to the right character, right? Which is cool. And then we've got the third word balloon, which is coming from this character here, which I don't love that he's barely on the screen. I'd much rather his face was sort of up here a little bit more, and then this could point to him there, which would be a bit clearer, because you might not notice him, especially because like he is yellow and the background's yellow as well, so he potentially blends in. So that's the first panel, and it's not a one-off, unfortunately, because now we've got this balloon here, which, if you look at it, it looks like this guy should be talking, but actually it's this guy who's talking, and yet the word balloon's over here and he's over here, and then he's over here and he's over here. Like, that's okay. But then we've got the third word balloon with Bucket talking, and Bucket is there, so you can barely see him. So again, it's like the composition and all the word balloons need to be changed, because these panels here, as a comic, do not work. As drawings and as characters and all of that stuff, 10 out of 10, no notes. Really, really nice. I really love this style. Word balloons, like 2 out of 10. Like, it really, really, really needs work. And there are ways that you can do it. Like, presumably he's talking first, he's talking second, he's talking third. So I don't know, maybe you could, it's going to be a bit of a squeeze, but maybe you could put like word balloon 1 there, word balloon 2 there, and then word balloon 3 is a bit of a trouble. Maybe you just get rid of that bit of dialogue. I don't know. See, this is the problem. Like, when you don't consider the word balloons early on, you're talking about having to recompose the entire panel, which again is something this could have taken you hours to draw. And I don't want to see you having to redraw it just because of this. So, yeah. Now, the reason why I'm being perhaps a little bit harsher than normal is, one, I think the comic is really good in terms of the drawings, as I've said a couple of times in this video so far. But also because the fixes are so avoidable, and it's the word balloons that are just killing the comic, like completely killing the comic. And another reason why I think that you are almost certainly an animator is because obviously when you're animating and you're drawing animations, you don't do word balloons. Like, you you don't think about them as part of the composition. You think about the visuals as part of the composition, because then the voice actor will talk, or vice versa, obviously. So that's what makes me think that maybe that's one of the reasons why, because I genuinely, I can't understand the logic as to where you've placed the web balloons otherwise. That's the only explanation that makes sense in my head. So I would say that moving forwards, treat your word balloons like they are a character, because they are just as important, if not more important than a character, because if they don't work, then everything else kind of falls apart. So really do that, and your comic will 100% level up. I mean, it's already in a great state. It already looks like a professional level, in my view. I think that just because it's a cartoony and simplistic style, I think it is genuinely really, really good. It's just that, yeah, the word balloons, man, you really, really, really need to sort that out. Yeah. And also, I'll use this as an opportunity, because we've been talking about word balloons and dialogue and stuff in this part of the video. Wakey, who is John Wakefield, is a writer, a comic writer and editor. He has joined me on Patreon, which is really cool and really exciting. And he teaches people comic writing and script writing. So if anyone ever needs help with their comic writing and their script and their characters and their themes and all that sort of stuff, then click the link in the description, and he will do a one-to-one with you. So yeah, I'm not necessarily suggesting that you need this, Dominic, or anything. I mean, I think everybody needs it, obviously, but I'm biased. But I just thought, because we're talking about dialogue, and dialogue assistance is one of the things that you talked about, so it might be worth considering for you. But yeah, word balloons. If nothing else, fix your word balloons. Right, next. So next one, we have got Goldberger, and his comic is 4:57 a.m. This is his first comic. He's got 24 pages finished, and the premise of the comic is this. A man living Thursday on a loop meets a woman looping Friday. They connect during the overlapping hours. So we've got a strong and familiar concept and clear emotional potential with this one. The issue isn't the idea, it's direction, or a lack of direction. So from the form that you filled out, I know that some of your biggest issues are second-guessing decisions, overwhelmed by the scope of the comic, you don't know what the ending is, and you keep changing direction. So this is a really horrible cocktail to be in, and your idea of your comic actually makes this situation worse, because you can effectively do whatever you want. Like, you can literally mess around with time. And that kind of freedom can paralyze you. And as you've already been experiencing, because no decision is ever really permanent, you know, because the very concept is characters looping. So you can just redo things literally over and over and over again. And the problem is that if all of your decisions are temporary and none of them are really permanent, then you will rethink them and rework them over and over and over again. And you yourself will be in a loop, which is kind of weird in a meta kind of way. And so the best thing to do, first and foremost, is to take that feeling that you can go anywhere with this idea and with this comic, and just put a container around it. Like, set boundaries, because boundaries are going to be your biggest asset here. Now, I'm going to give you a simple 5-act structure where each act is going to explore an emotion that our main character is going through. And our main character is Justin. In fact, let me get this up on screen so you can see it, because the comic looks fantastic. So this is how we're going to install boundaries for our comic. I mean, before we do, love the style. I've had a lot of fun reading this comic, so I just wanted to give props there. And the link to this comic, as well as the other ones, are in the link to the description. So please, everybody, have a read. And if anyone can hear a dog barking, I apologize. It's really fucking annoying. So this is how we install boundaries. This is just off the top of my head. I'm not necessarily suggesting that you go for this, but this is just to give you an idea. So I came up with the idea that Justin, the boundaries that you're putting around your comic idea are Justin's emotions, effectively, or each stage of an emotion, almost like he's going through the stages of grief, to where he potentially finally accepts his situation where he's constantly looping. Okay. So Act 1 is numbness or depression. So the reason why I started with this is because this is something that you've already established within the comic. Justin is drifting, and you also laid the seed for what's to come by him locking eyes with a woman. I don't know if that's the woman who also loops. If it is, you've planted that seed really well. That's Act 1, where we're basically establishing Justin's predicament and Justin, how he feels about life and all that sort of stuff. Act 2 is curiosity. So
this is where Justin thinks about the woman. Maybe he sees her again. He finds out about the small window of time where they overlap. And now the audience is curious too. We're going on the journey with Justin. So that would be the issue that follows the issue that you've got here, because this is issue 1. Act 3 is hope. So Justin realizes that this woman is in the loop too. She's looping Friday where he's looping Thursday. And finally, he has something in common with somebody else. A connection can start to develop between them, and then, bam, it's taken away. How you do that is up to you. But you obviously want to give your audience a little bit of something, and then you want to take it away from them. So that's where we get to Act 3. Act 4, this is where we get to the desperation, sort of the all is lost moment kind of thing, right? And this is where you can escalate the stakes a little bit and really screw up Justin's world. Like, make him suffer worse than when he was at the beginning of the story. So at the beginning of the story, he's kind of depressed about his predicament. By Act 4, his world sucks now, which might make you feel bad for him. Hopefully it does. Maybe he loses her in some way. Maybe they're no longer looping, or maybe they're no longer in sync and he can't see her anymore or whatever. And then towards the end of the act, you can have her send a message from one day ahead explaining how to find her. Like, she's obviously, because she's one day ahead, she's looping Friday, he's looping Thursday. And then Act 5 is acceptance. So this is the big transformation of Justin as a character, and this is where the story ends. So you could argue that Justin's transformation happens before this act, and based on what I've laid out, I guess he transforms by Act 3 kind of, but this is where we can solidify that transformation. And in the scenario I've laid out, I've decided that Justin doesn't find the woman again, and he doesn't break out of the loop. Because for whatever reason, I just wanted the not necessarily happy ending. But instead of being depressed by that, he's realized that he's capable of making connections with people inside his own loop, even if that only lasts for 24 hours. So that's what I came up with. Very, very quick. I'm sure it's not great. I'm sure if Wakey's watching this, he'd be like, this is shit. You should do a one-to-one with me, and maybe you're right. But that's what I just did for the purposes of this video, because the point of these acts is to bring Justin closer to whatever his final transformation is going to be as a character. Whether you do that in 5 acts or 12 acts is up to you. But if you're having a lot of trouble with overwhelm with your comic, then I would err on the side of brevity and stick to 5 or even 3 acts if you want. Because again, the whole point of doing these acts is for structure, and it's for that boundaries. It's so that you cannot get overwhelmed by all the different opportunities and all the different choices that you're making. Because you know that if you decide to like name each act after an emotion that Justin goes through, for example, then you know that every decision that you make when it comes to the story has to lead him towards that particular emotion. So that gives you that boundary, so you're not all over the place. And your storytelling becomes a lot more focused. So the first thing to do, whether you go for 3 acts, 5 acts, 12 acts, whatever, is name each one, is to have a goal for each one, whatever it is. Like, where are you starting or where are you finishing? Don't worry about the middle. Just do those 2 things. And depending on how you work as an individual, you can do one of 2 things. You can either write all of the acts out, one after the other, in 1 or 2 big writing sessions, or write 1 act out, then draw it, then write another one, and then draw that one, then another one, and draw that one, and so on until you're done. If you want another restraint, because again, restraint is actually a really good thing for creativity. It's a bit of a paradox, but that is true. Then try and keep each act to a similar page count, whether that is maybe each act is an issue, or maybe each act is 2 issues or 3 issues or whatever it is. To try and keep them relatively similar. Because again, that gives you something to aim for. It stops the story meandering too much, and it forces you to edit and cut out all the fat so that your comic is nice and lean. Because think about it this way, right? Even if you only did 5 chapters and each chapter was an issue, that's like a 100-page graphic novel in total. In fact, it's more than 100 pages. So even like the conservative or the small side, that's a pretty hefty graphic novel, you know? Not every graphic novel that you make or comic you make has to be 300, 400, 500 pages long. I'd much rather read a tight 100-page comic than a 500-page comic that doesn't really get anywhere or has like a really slow, fatty middle, you know? Now, I really like this concept. I think this concept worked. I really like the art style. I didn't really talk about the art that much because I think there's not much for me to add to it. And I don't think that's not really the biggest problem here. The biggest problem is you figuring out how to proceed with the comic. And that's way more important than any little art things here and there. It's kind of surreal and abstract, and I've been showing a lot of it as B-roll in this part of the video because it's really interesting. And I have a favorite panel, which I'm going to show you now. This one. I really like this this panel here. I love because I think this goes really well with the surreal, abstract kind of style. The fact that I just think that works. I think that works really well. That's my favorite. So as far as the art goes, because I'm primarily an artist as well, that's no notes. I really like that. It's really inventive, really creative. So anyway, thank you very much to Goldberger, to SideBurn, and to Dominick for submitting your comics. Everyone watching, give them a read. The links to them where available are all in the video description. So please add these to your reading list because indie comics are always great. And come and join the Discord if you want a friendly community of comic creators to hang out with, and if you want to submit your comic to this video. And if you want to have mentorships or to have some advice or one-to-ones or anything like that, then click the link to my Patreon because that's a service that I offer there as well. They're a little bit like this, but they're a lot more bespoke and much more heavily suited to your needs. Anyway, and if you want more comic critiques, then watch this playlist. See you soon.